Welcome to EduRev. I'm your teacher, and today we are jumping right into a masterclass on the Indian judicial system. My goal in this explainer is to make sure you're perfectly prepared to crush your exams. We're going to break down exactly how justice actually works in our society, from the highest courts all the way down to the local tribunals. So, grab your notebooks, get comfortable, and let's get started. Let's kick things off with a pretty heavy hitter. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." I want you to really think about that for a second. Look, in any modern democracy, people are interacting constantly, and naturally, disagreements are going to happen. This quote perfectly establishes why an independent judiciary, a totally fair and impartial referee, is absolutely critical for our society to actually function peacefully. Here's our syllabus for today's explainer. 1. Law, justice and society. 2. The Supreme Court's power. 3. High and subordinate courts. 4. Modernizing our justice system. And 5. Role of judiciary and EduRev. Alright. Diving into section 1, Law, Justice and Society, the rules of fairness. Okay, so a huge concept you need to nail down right away is this. Just because something is officially a law doesn't automatically mean it's fair. History is packed with governments making rules that were technically legal but deeply unjust. Take the Criminal Tribes Act of 1871 from colonial India, which literally branded entire communities as born criminals, or the Jim Crow laws in the 1960s US and apartheid in 1991 South Africa. All official laws, right? But totally lacking in fundamental fairness. That is exactly why over 1,500 discriminatory colonial-era laws in India had to be scrapped, and why we rely on a strong judiciary to constantly check our laws against the Constitution. So, how do we actually measure fairness? Well, when we examine a law or legal action, we have to look at two main pillars. First up is substantive justice. This one is all about the final outcome. Was the actual decision or punishment reasonable and fair? The second pillar is procedural justice, which focuses entirely on the process itself. Did the accused get a full, fair opportunity to be heard before that decision was made? Just remember the golden rule of our system here. Every single person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Moving right along to section 2, the Supreme Court's power, the apex court of India. Listen, you absolutely need to memorize this unified structure for your exams. Unlike some countries that have totally separate state and central court systems, India runs on a single integrated system. It's like a giant pyramid. At the base, you've got the subordinate courts at the district level. Step up and you're at the high courts at the state level. And sitting right at the very top is the apex authority, the Supreme Court of India in New Delhi. It's a seamless flow of justice from the bottom to the top. Established on January 26, 1950, the Supreme Court is the ultimate interpreter of our Constitution. And let's quickly break down its specific jurisdictions, because these are highly testable concepts. Notice writ jurisdiction under Article 32. That allows citizens to approach the court directly to enforce fundamental rights. Then you've got original jurisdiction for disputes between the centre and states. It also holds appellate powers to hear appeals, advisory powers to guide the precedent, and the super powerful special leave petition under Article 136, allowing it to hear an appeal from literally any court in India. Definitely take a mental snapshot of these points. Now here is a super fascinating tool the court actually invented itself. Public interest litigation, or PIL. filed under Articles 32 and 226. It addresses matters of massive public concern. Before the PIL existed, only the person directly harmed could go to court. But now, anyone can bring urgent social issues, stuff like environmental protection or workplace safety, straight to the court's attention to enforce the right to life for those who can't fight for themselves. It's a real game changer. To put this into perspective, let's talk about the very first PIL. It was filed by an absolute trailblazer, a brilliant lawyer named Mrs. Kapila Hingorani. She discovered that under-trial prisoners in Bihar had actually been locked up for longer than their maximum sentences would have been if they were officially convicted. Crazy, right? Her single petition changed everything. The Supreme Court stepped in, and her action resulted in the immediate release of nearly 40,000 under-trial prisoners across India. That right there is the true power of the judiciary in action. Let's zoom in a bit. Section 3, High and Subordinate Courts, Local Judicial Systems. Down at the state level, the High Court is the top dog under Article 214. But here's a fun trivia fact that examiners love to test. While India currently has 28 states, we only have 25 high courts. Why is that? Because some states and union territories actually share a high court. But make no mistake, each one holds immense power. They have their own writ jurisdiction under Article 226 to protect your fundamental rights locally. And they have the vital power of superintendents to oversee all the lower courts in their territory. But honestly, for ordinary citizens like you and me, the most crucial part of this whole system is the subordinate courts, like the district and sessions courts and the specialized tribunals. This is where the public interacts most directly with the law. Think about it. If you have a consumer complaint against a builder, you're not going straight to the Supreme Court. You go to a consumer forum. Corporate dispute? That heads to the NCLT. These local bodies make sure justice is accessible and specialized right on the ground level. Alright, on to Section 4. Modernizing our justice system, tech and new laws. Make sure you star this next part in your notes for current affairs. For over a century, we relied on colonial-era criminal laws. But in 2023, India took a massive leap forward. We replaced the Indian Penal Code with the Bharatiya Naya Sanhita. The Criminal Procedure Code became the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, and the Evidence Act is now the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam. These aren't just cosmetic name changes, folks. These modern codes are specifically designed for faster justice, way better victim protection, and the seamless integration of digital evidence. And speaking of upgrades, the courtroom itself is going totally digital. To ensure complete transparency, courts have embraced some incredible tools. We are talking e-filing, hybrid hearings, and live streaming of cases. But maybe the coolest feature is the virtual justice clock. It's an actual digital display placed right at the Supreme Court's main entrance. It shows real-time judicial data, so you can see exactly how many cases are being filed and resolved. It is a massive step in making the courts visible and accountable to the public. Look, we all know the courts are dealing with a crazy backlog of cases. That's exactly why you need to know these 4 alternative dispute resolution or ADR methods. They help citizens settle cases without going through lengthy formal trials. We have arbitration, where a neutral expert makes a legally binding decision. There's mediation, which is super common, where parties just work together to reach a mutual settlement. Then we have Lok Adalats, which are friendly people's courts for amicable settlements. And finally, Gram Nyayalas, which are mobile village courts designed to completely decentralize justice. Almost at the finish line. Section 5. Role of Judiciary. Okay, here is my personal cheat code for you, directly from me as your teacher. Whenever an exam asks you about the core functions of the judiciary, I just want you to think of the word JADE. J stands for justice delivery, A is for adjudication of disputes, D is for the defense of your fundamental rights, and E stands for the enforcement of laws. Write down JADE in your margins right now, and you will never ever forget the judiciary's main purpose. So, let's tie this all together. The judiciary is the fiercely independent pillar of our democracy. It ensures fair adjudication, protects your fundamental rights from legislative overreach, and resolves disputes through a perfectly unified hierarchy and ADR methods. Basically, it's the ultimate guardian of our constitution, making sure justice is served fairly and equally across the entire nation, no matter who you are. To totally crush your exams and get access to even more amazing study materials, mock tests, and interactive content, make sure you download the EduRev app.